Hello, welcome to another episode of From Impossible to Inevitable. I am your host, Megan Bauer. I am so grateful that you decided to push play today, and I am really excited to share with you some excerpts from a book that I have read twice now. It is called Courage is Calling. It's by Ryan Holiday. I read it last year. I can't remember when I read it last year, at some point last year, and then I read it again in January. If you follow me on Instagram, I posted regularly in my stories throughout the course of January little quotes and excerpts of the book, and I thought, you know what? The podcast is a great place to expand on that and to read even more, because on Instagram I was confined to what I could say as quickly as possible in 60 seconds. And that was a challenge. Okay, how fast can I speak? How fast can I speak? Sometimes I couldn't speak fast enough. Anyways, I'm going to share with you 5 of my favorite excerpts from Courage is Calling today. Also, I just wanted to mention, if you're watching me on YouTube, and if you're like, wait a minute, there's a YouTube? Yes, there is a YouTube, and there's a link in the show notes if you would prefer to watch me on YouTube. I might look a little darker, a little dimmer today. My ring light almost started a fire after recording the last episode, so we are not plugging that thing in again. And I haven't gotten a new one yet, so we might be a little dimmer until I get a new ring light and one that isn't a fire hazard in my house. Okay, so without further ado, we are going to jump into Courage is Calling. I have 5 great quotes for you and some thoughts on each of them. And really, this is an excellent book. All 5 of my quotes are within the first 100 pages of the book. And there's so much more goodness in here. Those are my 5 favorites. So that's what I'm rolling with. And I totally recommend this book. I'm not an affiliate or anything. I have no link for you to buy it. You can go onto Amazon and purchase it. It's just a really impactful book, and I think you'd benefit from it. I think everyone would benefit from it. It's really great. And maybe by the end of this episode, I'll have you on Amazon checking out with it. Okay, so quote number 1. Fear determines what is or isn't possible. If you think something is too scary, it's too scary for you. If you don't think you have any power, you don't. If you aren't the captain of your fate, then fate is the captain of you. We go through life in 2 ways. We choose between effective truths, that we have the ability to change our situation, or that we are at the mercy of the situations in which we find ourselves. We can rely on luck or cause and effect. Of course, just because you think you can do something doesn't mean you can. But if you don't believe you can do something, if you're afraid of it, it's very unlikely that you will be able to do anything about it. I love this quote because how you choose to see something determines what is possible for you. And I love how he says that we go through life choosing between effective truths. Both are true, right? We're not arguing about something being true and something being untrue. Both are true. You just choose which truth has an effect in your life. You can look at all of the reasons why something won't work. You can place all of your focus there on why something is too hard, too impossible, too scary, too out of reach, too whatever. Or you can acknowledge those things, and you can focus on all of the reasons why it will work for you. All of the reasons why you are the perfect fit. You are the perfect person to do this. You have this perfect skill set for this, or this perfect temperament or personality or experiences or connections or whatever it is. So take this podcast, for example. There are tons of people who have personal development podcasts that are very successful. They have way more experience than I have. And I could look at all of that and I can be like, yeah, that there's no room for me, because these people are amazing and they have amazing experience And there's already so much out there. I could focus there. I could. And people would be like, yeah, you're right. Because all of that is true. However, because there are so many personal development podcasts out there, I choose to see that as great. I have an audience out there who's already listening to personal development podcasts. And yes, there are more experienced people out there. And some people really gravitate towards the people who have been doing this for, 15, 18, 20 years, and they love to glean all of that wisdom. And then there's other people who, listen to somebody like that and they're like, yeah, you are so much farther along than me that I can't even relate. So there will be somebody who really appreciates my relatability at the beginning stages of this. There's going to be somebody who I relate to in a way that maybe those amazing big shot people cannot, simply because I am who I am. I bring to all of these personal development topics my own experiences, my own perspective, my own challenges, my own baggage even. And all of that is actually valuable because, as we'll get into a little bit later, I am unique, just as you are, just as everyone is, right? But there are going to be things about me that resonate, even if somebody else who has 20 plus years of experience says the exact same thing. It's going to hit differently for different people. So all of that to say, you can choose to see how you are unqualified for the thing, or you can choose to see how you are uniquely qualified for the thing. You get to make that choice. All right, moving on to quote number 2. Let's see, I've got to find it, sorry. If fear is to be a driving force in your life, fear what you'll miss. Fear what happens if you don't act. Fear what they'll think of you down the road, having dared so little. Think of what you're leaving on the table. Think of the terrifying costs of playing small. The fear you feel is a sign. If courage is never required in your life, you're living a boring life. Put yourself in a position that demands you leap. I love this perspective shift. I love it. So many times we look at something that we want to do or accomplish or have or become, and we see all of the negative what ifs. We see, what if it doesn't work? What if blah, 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 all the negative stuff. And it's a little bit more rare to look at that same thing and say, what if I don't? What if I don't become that person? What if I don't make this leap? What if I don't try? Because there are costs associated with that too. And which is worse? Not having tried and living with the regret of never knowing if you'd be great at a great writer, a great artist, a great parent, a great spouse, a great speaker, a great athlete, a great whatever your dream is. Would you having never tried it, having never really put yourself in the arena, or having tried it, learned and grown, and maybe you are successful, maybe you learn something else along the way that causes you to pivot and change? Which cost is greater? Which cost is higher? Because nothing is really certain. If you have, so let's say somebody has this boring 9 to 5, it's dreadful, they would love to be working for this cool startup that they found online that's hiring, and they feel this call within them, this pull, and they're like, oh, that would be so fun, but so many startups fail, and what if I join and then it fails in a couple of years, and oh, I've got a family to support and we need health insurance and blah, 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 blah. Yes, valid. All of that's valid. At the same time, layoffs happen at secure jobs all the time. And what if the company that you currently work for is just weeks away from going under? All of that stuff is not in your control. It could happen anyway. You could make the scary leap into the startup, and then yeah, it could fail. Or you could stay in your boring job and you could get laid off. And you're still in the same position, however, you didn't make the exciting leap that you felt called to do. The problem here with this is that we're not trusting ourselves. We're not trusting ourselves to be able to figure out whatever happens. So if you make the exciting leap and things go wrong, you have to be able to trust yourself that you'll be able to figure it out. Because up until this point, you have figured everything else out. Everything. You've figured out everything. Sure, you might be facing challenges right now that you're like, whatever, Megan, I've got all this that I haven't figured out yet. Okay, well, you're on the path, and in 10 years, it's going to be figured out, right? Isn't that the plan? You're going to figure it out because that's just what you do. I remember I saw, this was a couple of years ago now, I saw these parents at the zoo with triplets. They had two in this bassinet type thing. They were very little. And then they were holding one. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine, triplets. I can't imagine that. And they're like, yeah, it's just life now. So we just figure it out, you know? It's like no big deal to them because that's what they've got. So they're figuring it out. And even if I can't imagine it, I don't have it. So, but if I were given triplets, which powers that be, no, I would lose my mind. I would figure it out. I would. And you can figure it out. And actually the book I'm reading right now, which I will do a similar podcast episode for, is by Marie Forleo, and it's called Everything is Figure Outable. And I love the book already. I'm definitely going to share it with you. If that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and buy it. I'm halfway through and I already recommend it. Even for the first half. Anyways, moving on. Trust yourself that when you make a big scary leap, you'll be able to figure it out no matter what happens. Okay, third quote. By definition, each of us is original. Our DNA has never existed before on this planet. No one has ever had our unique set of experiences. Yet what do we do with this heritage? We push it away. We choose not to be ourselves. We choose to go along, to not raise any eyebrows. I have lots of thoughts on this, but instead of telling you my thoughts, I would really love for you to ponder this one. What are you doing with your heritage? Where in your life, from the big things down to the little things, like from your career or job or family situation or goals or whatever, down to how you get dressed in the morning, where are you saying yes when you'd really rather say no? Where are you saying no when you'd really rather say yes? Where are you neglecting your desires? Where are you reluctantly acquiescing to others? I'm not talking about compromise there. I'm talking about, oh, I don't want to do this, but so-and-so really wants me to do this, and so I'm doing it. It's that like, ugh. Okay, think about this. You have a unique heritage. You are a unique individual. And for you to be who you are, the odds are astronomical. So own who you are. Own what you want. Own what you like. Own what you want to do, what you don't want to do. Think about this. I said I wasn't going to give you my thoughts, and I'm doing it anyway. So I'm going to stop. You think about this. You have an incredible heritage. What are you doing with it? Our fear of what other people think, of embarrassment or awkwardness, is not the same fear that holds a man back from running into battle, but it is a limitation, a deficiency of courage that deprives us of our destiny all the same. There is no change, no attempt, no reach that does not look strange to someone. There's almost no accomplishment that is possible without calling some attention on yourself. To gamble on yourself is to risk failure. To do it in public is to risk humiliation. Anyone who tries to leave their comfort zone has to know that. Yet we'd almost rather die than be uncomfortable. The comedian Jerry Seinfeld once noted that people rank public speaking as worse than the fear of death, which means, quite insanely, that at a funeral, the average person would rather be in the casket than delivering the eulogy. We don't get to succeed privately. It's ironic, the Stoics would say, that for all our selfish cares about ourselves, we seem to value other people's opinions about us more than our own. When we flee in the direction of comfort, of raising no eyebrows, of standing in the back of the room instead of the front, what we are fleeing is opportunity. When we defer to fear, when we let it decide what we will and won't do, we miss so much. Not just success, but actualization. Who might we be if we did not care about blushing? What might we accomplish if we didn't mind the spotlight? If we were willing not only to fail, but to do so in front of others. So I'm working under the assumption here that there's something in your life, some change, some improvement, some experience, something you want to create, some idea, something. There's something that you want. I'm working under this assumption here. And the reason that you don't yet have it, have experienced it, have created it, have gone after it, whatever, is because of some fear. A fear of rejection, a fear that it'll take too long, a fear that you don't have what it takes, a fear that you can't handle it, a fear of failure, a fear of success even, a fear of ridicule, a fear of change, a fear of what other people will think. There's some fear that's standing in between you and the thing that you want to create, the thing that you want to do, you want to experience, you want to be even. I could go on forever on that because there's something. If you haven't done it yet, it's because there's a fear or maybe even a limiting belief or both that's keeping you from it. Because if there wasn't, you would go do it. If I want a hot shower, I know I can have one. I believe I can have one. I would just go have one. Right? Okay. So there's something you want, and there's a fear or a limiting belief or both keeping you from it. Now, I want you to imagine this. Imagine that fear just melting away. Just melting away. And as it circles the drain, look at yourself. This person who no longer has this fear, who doesn't have this thing that is holding you back. Look at yourself and ask yourself, do you still want that thing? Is that still something you want to create? Is that still something you want to do, experience, have, be? If it is, are you now the kind of person who will go get it, who will go do it, who will go be it? Think of who you would be if you didn't have that fear in your way. I'm roundabout saying, get over your fear and go do it. But as this thought experiment, in this thought experiment, let go of the pressure to act. Simply just take it as a thought experiment. Think of what you want. Think of what you want to create, what you want to do, what you want to be, who you want to be, all of whatever. Just pick one. Think of the fear that's most screaming at you. think of it melting away. And now what? Now what? Take that thought experiment. Go do it. Go take your journal and write about it. Write your experience. You really should, because it could make a massive difference for you. You can see that the fear, although it may be very valid, does not actually have any real power over you. You get to still choose. All right, our final quote. Each of us has our own skills, our own set of experiences and insights. We each receive our call. If we don't answer it, then we deprive the world of something. Our failure of courage ripples out beyond us into the lives of other people. I'm going to repeat that. Our failure of courage ripples out beyond us into the lives of other people. Because if you don't adopt that kid, who will? If you don't start that business, who will? If you don't finally say those 3 magic words today, when will you? Likely no one, likely never. And if someone does, it won't be you. It will be different. It will not be as good. It will not be what you bring to the table. The belief that an individual can make a difference is the first step. The next is understanding that you can be that person. I believe that you are here for a reason. I believe that you are who you are for a reason. I believe that you have the desires you have for a reason. You get to choose what to do. You get to choose how to live. You get to choose if you're going to let fear stop you. It is important that you know, however, that you have a call. Even if your call sounds like, looks like somebody else's call or what somebody else is doing in the world, know that your uniqueness already makes it different. Know that your perspective, your experiences, your skill sets, your way of looking at things already makes it different. It already changes it. Already. And so if you think that it's not going to matter if you don't do the thing, if you don't be the person, if you don't have the experience, whatever, if you don't think that matters, you're wrong. Because it does matter, because you matter, and your desire is placed within you to make a difference. I love that he says your failure of courage ripples out and impacts other people. You know, the opposite is true too. Your bravery ripples out and impacts other people. And if you have had a different thought, a different day, a different 5-second block because of something I've said, of some perspective shift I've given you, or something that, some aha moment from something in some podcast that I have done, think about that. I am using my own courage to put myself out on the internet to make an impact. And if you took something away that made your day better, so what if you were in a slump, feeling super down and whatever, you listened to my podcast, I said something and you're like, you know what? I am choosing to feel better right now. And then you walk into a store and you hold the door open from somebody who thinks that no one in this world cares about them, but you holding the door open just shines a light on them, and they're, you know what? They're like, you know what? There are people in this world that care. And then they go in and they decide to, I don't know, buy a gift for a sick neighbor on their street and whatever. I'm making all of this up, right? But you get my point. I was brave. Therefore, it made a difference to you. Therefore, it made a difference to them. Therefore, it It's a continual domino effect, and you don't know how it's going to ripple out. So sure, you choosing not to act is going to have its own ripple effect, but you choosing to be courageous and to be brave in your own life has its own very rewarding ripple effect. And while it's not super easy yet for me to get on this podcast and to talk and to give my perspective and to be open and vulnerable and whatever, all the things, it's not as scary as it was. It's gotten easier, so yay. So as you make little steps, the bigger steps will be easy. Like, I believe in you. If I didn't, I wouldn't be spending my time this way. I believe in you. I believe in your positive impact in the world. I believe that you have what it takes. I believe in your uniqueness. I believe that whatever desires were placed in your heart are meant for you to live out, to actualize, and to create. Thank you so much for listening in today. Thank you for your reviews and your comments and your shares of the podcast. I appreciate your support, and I'm so grateful for it. And with that, I hope you have a great day, and I wish you all the best, all the courage, and of course, all the sparkly things.